Guys, and welcome to the newest episode of Be Hero Presents the Bump Card Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Brian, and with me tonight is my tag partner, Psycho. How are you doing tonight, Psycho?
I'm doing good. I'm tired, but I am here, and I am excited to be here.
I am too, and I'm actually very excited that I nailed that intro on the first try this time. For those who noticed, I forgot to edit out the original 3 screw-ups beforehand when we put it out there.
Oh my gosh.
And I was informed by my lovely wife, when she listened to it the next day, that I left those in there, and she said it was great. So I hope you guys enjoyed my inadvertent flub of me leaving all of those in there.
Love it.
Oh, and if you guys want, please go into our Instagram and go back about a year almost, and you will get to see one of my favorite outtakes from this show of all time that I recently had to show our dear friend and my former tag partner, Brandon, of Nick falling out of his chair on air.
Oh my gosh. Did he laugh?
He laughed his ass off.
Oh my god.
That is on Be Hero Media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find it all there. So.
I almost died. That was like a near-death experience. I saw my life flash before my eyes. It was weird. I was like, I felt like you know how you have those dreams where it's like you're falling and you keep falling. That's what it was like for me, because it was like in slow motion for me. It was like, oh, yeah.
Well, watching you was the greatest part, because you did the grab and try to catch yourself.
I did.
I had forgotten about it, and then I can't remember how we got it brought up, but I'm like, oh, Brandon, you need to see this.
Oh my gosh. Good times.
All right. And I do apologize, guys. I know we haven't aired anything on Be Hero specifically in a couple of weeks for either Bump Card or Slightly Agitated. My friend Brandon, who's just moved back from North Carolina, has been staying with us, and he's been in my office. And so I didn't feel comfortable recording while he's been in here. He's still in here, his stuff is in here, but we worked out a thing so I can record today, and I'll be recording tomorrow for Slightly Agitated. So we'll be hopefully able to get out a couple episodes. That said, we won't have an episode next week because I will be out of town.
Tisk.
I know, it's been rough to try and keep everything going. So I apologize, guys. Please stay with us. Please follow us the best you can. Let other people know. And go back and listen to some older episodes. I'm going to try and schedule some choice episodes to listen to from Bump Card or Be Hero Fights or Slightly Agitated over the next week or so. So please continue to listen. All that being said, all that housekeeping out of the way, we are going to talk about wrestling. I know, what a surprise. But not just wrestling, the state of wrestling in its current form. We do this at the beginning of the year and halfway through the year, and
We're
I feel
late this year.
I feel like, we are behind a little bit, but I think this is actually the perfect time because this is going to be airing just before SummerSlam and before Wembley at AEW. So I think this is a great time to try and get that out of the way, because everything's probably going to change following both of those pay-per-views. So that being said, Psycho, before we jump into that, let's go ahead and do as we always do. Let's go ahead and hit up our wrestling world news. So what's in the news today?
Oh my gosh. So where there's smoke, there's fire. Right? So a couple weeks ago.
Fire?
No. So a couple weeks ago, we had mentioned a news story where a rumor, or I guess that Shane McMahon was interested in maybe the possibility, or had put feelers out, so to speak, about possibly doing something with AEW. Mm-hmm. And we kind of tossed over ideas of I know we had talked about, could it happen? Would it be, a big thing? How would they use them and all that? And by goodness, Shane and TK, sorry, Tony Khan,
TK
They
Owens?
no. Hey, if you're out there, TKO and listening to this, I say hi. Okay, so that was awkward as hell. Um, so but Shane and Tony Khan had a meeting. Did you hear about this?
I did.
And there's a photo, to basically a legit photo out there of the meeting
Mhm.
that was taken. If they're meeting, it's more than just like a pipe dream or a gosh, that would be interesting. They're meeting. If you would have, I did not have this on my bingo card when the year started that a McMahon would be meeting with Tony Khan to possibly work together.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, and let alone this specific McMahon. Like, if I had to say which McMahon, it would have been probably Vince. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that might be a thing that happens.
I kind of go the opposite way, and not that not that it's not crazy, because it is, but if there was going to be a McMahon talking with Tony Khan, I think Shane is the most likely, because Vince is so stubborn that he might. The smart thing to do would be to buy a wrestling promotion, and do it that way, because you don't have to start from scratch. But this is Vince. I could totally see him starting from scratch if he wanted to do something. But with that being said, like Shane talking with AEW, like, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how he would be used. Is it just a backstage role, or to help with connections? I mean, I'm sure that Shane has a lot of, like, networking, and can open doors that Tony Khan can't get otherwise. Um, or helping them with merchandise, or anything that WWE really excelled at.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even with a website, something. I don't know. Does AEW even have a website? I haven't even tried looking it up.
They do.
Okay, I've never once went to it. So, but I don't know. I mean, he could definitely. I think if he came on board and was helping backstage, heck, even helping with booking, something. I think it could be interesting, and it could be a benefit. If nothing else, it gets eyeballs on the product.
He'd be an interesting choice for booking. We've talked about it in the past that TK needs to get more people on the booking team and stuff like that. He'd be an interesting choice. I never thought about him as part of that booking team.
Well, because we never thought that was even remotely possible. But gosh, it'd be interesting to see, even if him and Tony Khan were co-bookers, and bounced idea. I think Tony Khan needs somebody in that role. Even if Shane was part of a booking committee and Tony Khan decided to do that, I think that would be a tremendous benefit, just to get a different voice, somebody that's definitely been at the top, as far as been in the room with booking ideas and all of that. I mean, he's the son of Vince. I think that's definitely something that could be utilized. As an on-air character, I think he could be used as part of a story. I really don't want to see him wrestle. Like,
I
what?
could see him as like a Bischoff role, like on air role, like back in the WCW day.
Like, what if he joined the Elite as their spokesperson or something like that? That would put fire onto that whole angle. If they did something like that, where he was like, the only way you can compete with the son of a billionaire is to bring in the son of a billionaire, type thing. And do an NWO type of storyline with it, where you're bringing in Shane. I mean, the name on the contract does say McMahon, but it's not Vince.
Oh, they could do it too, or they could do something similar like they did with the recently did the Elite versus AEW, and they can do that ostensibly in another fashion,
Yeah.
but have it with Shane in one corner and TK in the other corner, because TK doesn't always want to be part of the story, but I think this would be a good story for him to be part of.
Yeah, because I think that it would get ratings. People would watch just to see
Could you
Shane
imagine
on AEW television.
if they did it where it's exactly that, right? Where they did a war game, well, not war games, they just did that, but like a Survivor Series style thing, right? Where they had Elite versus AEW, and Shane's in one corner, TK's in the other corner, and the winning team, if Team Elite win, Shane owns AEW story wise. And otherwise TK wins, and then they cheat and Shane wins. So Shane becomes the owner on story for AEW and becomes the new de facto owner.
They wouldn't even have to do. What if Shane just got like Collision or Rampage or something like that? Or both of them. So it's, I don't know. Then you could do like a competing shows type thing.
So a Raw versus SmackDown scenario.
Hey, they caught. It's okay to copy good ideas if it works. I don't know. It's but my fear is that if Shane comes in, that they do have him wrestle, and the two matches I do not want to see, but I could see happening, a 40-minute Shane McMahon versus Chris Jericho match. Can you imagine that one at this stage?
I don't want to.
How awful that would be. Or Shane McMahon versus Tony Khan. Can you imagine how bad that would be?
No, I don't want to. Again, that being said, just recently they had oh god, my name's Jericho versus Suzuki, and that was a great Jericho match. They spent they went like 18 minutes, and they spent probably 12 of that just chopping the hell out of each other.
Well, that's how you get a good Jericho match at this stage.
Not Suzuki. I'm sorry, not Suzuki. Oh my gosh, my brain just turned off his name. Ishii. And then Jericho, and it was rough. Like, not in a bad way. Like, they chopped the crap out of each other. It was really good.
Yeah, there's one other rumor, or not a rumor, but a possibility of why Shane could be meeting with Tony Khan, and that's somehow that Shane is a feeler put out by Vince to buy AEW or to do a working relationship with them, and that Vince isn't far behind. I don't buy that one.
Well, I know you said that you feel like he's too petty to go with AEW. I also think he's too petty not to. Like, he, in his mind, was driven out of his company. So he'll take the second company and try to compete and tear down the company he made just because. That seems like a Vince thing.
They'd be, if Tony Khan and Vince McMahon teamed up, think of how much money they could throw at people. Like, maybe they could get, a big name like a Rock, or, I mean, not Rock now, but somebody of that magnitude, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, or or something like that, to do something with them.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, kind of crazy to think about, but I think we're getting something, because I can't imagine them meeting and then nothing comes of it.
I agree. I think we'll find out at All In. I think that'll be
if Shane shows up in London at Wembley, that's going to be surreal.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we can still use the song "Here Comes the Money," because that would blow the roof off the building, I think.
It's a good question. I guess we'll have to find out on All In.
Yeah. So other little bit of news here. So the Ohio governor has declared some tax credits for the state where, as you know, that's where SummerSlam is being held.
Yes,
Well,
Cleveland.
Apparently, 1.275 million of tax credits is listed as AEW productions, which makes it seem like AEW is going to be doing a big show there or something.
Interesting.
It's because that much to bring it, so they're paying for AEW to come in, just like they did a tax credit for SummerSlam and paid for them to come in. It's just interesting. Like I can't. It'd probably be for a 2025 show because all their pay-per-views are listed for this year. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I wonder if it'll be in the same building as SummerSlam.
So
If they
let's
do
think of their big shows they have. They have Forbidden Door, All In, Double or Nothing.
Mm-hmm. All Out.
All Out, yeah. I would guess it'd be one of those four. I mean, they have the other ones that they started building up, but those are like the big four they have right now.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they do All In outside of Wembley now. Because you can't do Wembley back to back to back
3 years in a row. Although, if you listen to Tony Khan, like in interviews, he seems like that's exactly like the plan. Is that's a staple? He likes it in Wembley, but the problem is that their first show they drew record gate, right? This show is about half of that. If they go back again, is it going to drop another half?
diminishing returns.
It's I don't know. I guess it depends on how well this show does, and I don't know. I don't know if Cleveland would be my pick to bring it to, though. I don't know, or Ohio in general. Although I imagine if they're doing Ohio, it's probably Cleveland. Yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting little tidbit that I saw there. Yeah. Other news. Let's see. The only other thing. Let's see here. Did you hear Bryan Danielson filed an interesting trademark? Going into All In here, he filed a trademark for yes, yes, yes.
Interesting.
Maybe he wants to bring back the yeses.
Do the yes movement all over again?
Yeah, for his final run.
I mean, it makes sense. It was the most over thing he has done.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and I think, dude, if he does that, does that at Wembley and starts doing it, it'll be huge. Seeing that big crowd doing that. So,
yeah. Except for how do you spell yes with a British accent?
How do you spell it with a British accent?
Do you add an extra U like you do in color?
Oh, I thought that was a Canadian thing. Well, I guess that's a British thing too. Yeah, I get it.
Canada's a Commonwealth.
Yes. Would it be yesonkers? I don't know. Bloody yes. Is that how?
Bloody yes.
Bloody yes.
Bloody yes.
Bloody yes.
I apologize to all of our British listeners.
Yes, because we're apparently cussing.
Sorry, Mark. I'm sorry. I know you're probably listening to this while your baby's asleep, so I apologize on that poor. Oh wait, no, you're Welsh. You don't care.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Another podcaster who lives in Wales, so who just had a baby.
Well, congratulations, Mark. He's from Welsh,
yes.
or I don't know
Wales.
who you are. Wales. Sorry, I've completely butchered you. I'm getting canceled by you, probably. I don't know you though.
He's a good guy. Anyhow,
yes, that's pretty much all the news I've got. But
well, let's go ahead now and jump into our topic of the week, and that is simply the state of wrestling as it is right now for halfway through the year of 2024?
So I think at the end of this, we should kind of like maybe even give a letter grade to each promotion or the overall state of the wrestling business.
Okay.
Would be cool. But let's start with right now, currently, for the first half of the year at this point, like, who do you feel is like, let's say the top 5 wrestlers? Any promotion.
Okay. I would have to go with Cody Rhodes.
Oh yeah, he's on my
Rhea Ripley. I'm not gonna go all WWE, even though like I could probably do all 5 in WWE. Matt Cardona on the Indies in general. Joe Hendry, who's just blowing up everywhere right now, and MJF.
Is this your personal 5 favorites, or is this who you really think are the big 5 biggest stars? Like, what's your criteria here? Is it star power, or is it,
I'm going based off of the year itself, right?
the year itself?
And from where they started to where they are now, and where they are at, and like how high they are. Of course, MJF. He's probably the most stagnant level of high because he was so high to begin with.
Well,
Cody
yeah, but he
Rhodes,
just
it
came
just keeps
back
going up.
though. Like,
It's
he was
true.
out for most of the year.
Yeah, like I said, that's probably where I would put him. Matt Cardona is also kind of rocketing up, but in a slower trajectory relative to how he's been all year. But he's been on the Indies and he's just doing a lot of great work on there. Joe Hendry is just blowing up like crazy
everywhere.
over the last couple months. Yeah,
I've got to send you some videos that I saw, like some shorts or whatever you want to call them, reels or whatever. Like, there's one of Family Guy, like doing like they are singing the Joe Hendry song and talking about I believe
in Joe Hendry.
Yeah,
I believe in Joe Hendry.
like, have you seen these? Like, there's a Family Guy one, and then there's one I'll have to send them to you. I don't know, maybe you can post them on the Be Here. I don't know. But if you're talking about like who's having the best year, I could see, I would say more Joe Hendry is probably like a breakout star. That he's, because before this year, I had no idea who Joe Hendry was. So he's kind of come onto the scene pretty quick.
Well, what you asked for is who's had the best year so far.
Okay. So I'll tell you who I think's had the best year. Obviously Cody Rhodes, right? The whole year has been about him, basically, and he's the champion, right? I can't put MJF on the list because he's been out for most of the year, so I can't put him on the list. I'll tell you who I can put on the list, and who hasn't even wrestled a single singles match on TV this year, but he's having a fantastic year. CM Punk. Come on, like, have you seen somebody? He's been out of action almost the entire year. Hasn't had a singles match in WWE since he's returned. And when he's on the TV, something's going down. Like, and it's been.
There is one person in the history of wrestling that I can think of that's on that same level of want to hear. Is Stone Cold right after the neck injury.
Yeah, they've very similar. They've done a fantastic job keeping him relevant while he's been out. He's done a fantastic job of keeping himself relevant. I mean, this is also the same guy that hadn't wrestled for WWE in 10 years, and they were still chanting his name, in arenas. So he's kept himself relevant
If you're gonna
Like,
do that, though, you got to put Drew in there because Drew is
yeah,
actually the one that's carried the bulk of this on his shoulders.
I agree. Drew has done fantastic in this role. Him and Punk just kind of mesh off of each other. I don't know. It's like Sean and Brett.
Hmm.
It's very much in that vein. Or Rock and Austin. Like they just have that chemistry together. I really hope, by the way, that when Punk wrestles Drew at SummerSlam, I really hope that Punk's body holds up and he doesn't get injured again because I as big of a Punk fan as I am, I'm really worried for how physical that match could be and if he can actually take that
I agree.
at this stage. We haven't really seen it tested in like it seems like he wrestled the Rumble, got hurt. I mean, he did do a stretch in AEW towards the end where he went all of that period of time without getting hurt. 6 months or whatever it was.
He went all in.
I see what you did there. So I would put Drew in there though. I would put. Who's done really well this year and has kind of made some waves is Jordan Grace from TNA. I think that she's been huge.
She's the perfect person to be the initial person to have the TNA and WWE like tie-in together.
Yeah.
Right, the working relationship with. Without her, there wasn't no Joe Hendry bump that they're doing. So
yeah. And then I would say, you know what, Swerve has had a fantastic year.
Swerve. So between Swerve, MJF, and Osprey, those are the three I was trying to debate about from AEW specifically. And I did go with MJF, but largely because he still had such a high coming off of last year. And even though he just spent most of this year out, like he's still like he came back as the top heel. Like he instantly was the top heel. He still is great. Like I was just watching the stuff from Dynamite just now with him on it, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many you could choose from here. So yeah, I think all of these wrestlers, they're very, they're having some of the best wrestling they've done.
I'm not even talking wrestling. Like a lot of the stuff we talk about stories, right?
Yeah, stories.
And if you want to go there, like I talked about Rhea, but you can also throw Dom in this, Liv Morgan in this, right? There's so much great wrestling stories right now,
and it's not all in the WWE.
No,
I mean most of it is, but it's not all there.
Well, again, going back to like with Matt Cardona, he started last year and is continuing this year about going and being the belt collector, right? And on the independents, like he is one of the most watched the most things to want to watch on an independent circuit right now is Matt Cardona. And it's been some great stuff. He even was wearing around Chelsea Green, his wife's WWE belt as part of the belt collecting.
Yeah. And I will agree with you, by the way, about Rhea Ripley. She's was out since WrestleMania, just came back, but oh my gosh, is she over? She's just got that it factor that there's not many that I can think of in WWE right now that match her star power. I think she's surpassed everybody as the top female wrestler in the world.
Oh, yeah, by far. And like honestly, I would put her up there with Cody as the top wrestlers in the company, period.
I think she's a draw. 100%. What do you think has been the best pay-per-view or premium live event of the year? Or
WrestleMania 40?
WrestleMania 40 for sure. I would say, I mean, that's 2 nights. WrestleMania 40, yes. In particular, I think night 2, which was kind of a change of how it's been lately, because the last couple of years, night 1 of WrestleMania to me was the better show. But this year it was different. They packed a lot into night 2, and I was very satisfied. It felt like WrestleMania on night 2.
Yeah, it was great. But to be honest, a lot of WWE's pay per views have been just hitting this year. Like they really haven't had a really poor pay per view. Like we even talked about going into WrestleMania, even like Elimination Chamber, which is usually kind of a lower end pay per view, was great. Rumble was great. Like they've been just hitting everything on perfectly this year. AEW for the most part's been for the most part fine. Like they haven't had great pay per views all year, but they've had good ones. Forbidden Door again is always a good one. So I'm excited for Wembley in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, All In will be. I think that'll be a fantastic show, and in front of a crowd. They haven't had that in a while. Um, not a
And
crowd that big.
even like uh eight or TNA. What was the paper they just had? My brain just turned off. It's one of their bigger ones. I can't remember, but that one was a really good pay per view and drew really good, like really, really good for them lately. I think if I remember right, it was like the top of the year, and it's been the like top they've had in like several years,
Yeah,
and it in the top like 5 of all time.
yeah. TNA, TNA's been doing really good this year.
Mm-hmm.
They started the year by rebranding to TNA. Um,
Let it go, Scotty. Scott the Morse, surprisingly.
yeah. And then they've done some good things. I think, bringing in the Hardys, that was big for them this year. Um,
Their
and
working relationship with WWE.
oh yeah, more people. I think more people are looking at TNA now that you know than probably in recent times.
So I saw a thing about a week ago. That the ratings for TNA following their working relationship with AEW actually went down for them by like 3%. But the ratings for them working with WWE has almost tripled, which is insane to think about.
Yeah. I mean, WWE still has, they're it, right? They give the rub to whoever they work with. I think AEW at the time with TNA, yeah, TNA wasn't at the time TNA wasn't that far below AEW. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, honestly, I don't think they're very far apart.
I
Um,
agree.
you know, their last pay-per-view, like you said, did really well, and they actually drew a pretty good crowd. So they're having attendance. It's very similar to AEW, if not more. The only thing the only thing that I think separates AEW and TNA right now is AEW has the better TV deal.
Yeah. Like you have to have a special channel to watch TNA, sadly, AXS.
Yeah.
Um, but damn, with TNA, they have this, but who knows how that's going to go with TBS losing the exclusive rights to the NBA. So they're not going to have as much money to put towards doing stuff with AEW.
Well, I don't know if that's true though, because I mean, yeah, because they're not bringing in the ratings and the advertisers, I guess that, but they're
Yeah.
also not paying out for the NBA. They saved themselves, a few $billion there, or whatever it was going to be.
Yeah, a
So
few $1 billion relative to the ad revenue they get back, which is also a few $1 billion.
right, so I don't know. I don't know the numbers. Obviously I think that's an interesting thing there because it's going to be a major blow to the networks because now, I mean, AEW is pretty much the main thing for them now.
TBS, yeah, they'll have AEW and like the Braves games.
Yeah, and did they get hockey or no?
Mm-mm.
No. But I think, yeah, I mean, maybe they put more money in promotion in AEW since it's kind of carrying them so they don't leave. I don't know. Although I wonder if it hurts negotiations that it's like, okay, the wrestling promotion that we're airing, they've literally named two of their titles after our channels, TBS and TNT. They ain't going nowhere. We can lowball them; they'll stay. Like that almost seems like a markish thing, to do. Because what are you going to do? You leave, and rename the belts to whatever channel you go to. Don't see it happening.
If I was Warner Brother Discovery, who owns USA, I would buy.
Well, they were in TNT, TBS, not USA.
No, what I'm saying is USA is owned. No, I'm sorry, they own Paramount owns them. I apologize. USA is owned by Paramount. With WWE leaving USA. Oh wait, no, they're going SmackDown. Never mind. I forgot about that. They're taking SmackDown over for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe Fox decides to buy in.
Maybe. I mean, they just lost, SmackDown. So, I mean, now that would be a big boost to have AEW go to Fox. But I don't see that happening because their ratings are down. I mean, that was one of the reasons that they didn't offer WWE as much money to stay, is because the ratings weren't what they had hoped. Well, if WWE on Fox, if they weren't happy with those ratings, I don't think AEW is going to cut it.
I agree, but that's why I would do something like I would aim for Dynamite if I was to do so, because what else are they airing on Wednesdays? And Dynamite's the biggest one on Wednesdays for them. So when Dynamite probably would pull in roughly the same amount of whatever random shitty show that they put on Wednesdays for Fox.
I don't know. I don't know what airs on Wednesdays. I have no idea. The only thing that I know is big for them is The Simpsons, and I'm pretty sure that's still on Sundays.
It is. Simpsons and Family Guy are on Sundays.
Yep. So, yeah. What do you think was the biggest surprise, or maybe like return of the year so far this year? What are some good ones? I mean, we mentioned Jordan Grace appearing in the Rumble. That was a pretty big surprise.
Yeah. Trying to think of what happened this year that would have been a big return or surprise. Jordan Grace was definitely one of them. Jacob Fatu was a big, not surprise, but a big debut.
Mm-hmm. Matt Hardy and TNA we mentioned. Same with Beth, I guess.
Nick Nemeth also in TNA, I think, was this year.
Yeah, I think so. He just won the TNA championship.
I saw that.
Yeah, so that's
yeah.
The Rock maybe coming back to do that.
Kind of like The Rock a little bit, but
you kind of expect it, right? It's The Rock.
Just general surprise. I would also put down Cena announcing his retirement for next year.
Yeah, for sure. The White Six, although I wish they'd go away already. Just saying.
I'm liking them. I just worry that it's going to get stale real fast.
It's already happened for me. So I'm like, it's the same thing with anything that happened with Bray Wyatt. Very cool debut or return or whatever you call it. And then after that, diminishing returns, because I don't want to see this on my television. It just kind of, I don't know. It's hokey pokey stuff that I can't.
It's selling merch and popping ratings.
If it's doing that, I guess, but I don't want to see it. I don't know. I'm not one of them.
And it's getting fresh eyes too, because they've been doing stuff with on the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'll run its course though. I just can't wait for that. I just like, if you look at what's going on everywhere else in WWE, the Wyatt Six, like it seems like a whole other time or a different promotion, because you've got the CM Punk and Drew and Rollins. You've got, even like Gunther and Damian Priest. You've got Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. You got all of these things, and then you've got the Wyatt Six, and it's like, are they even wrestling?
They're having their first matches on Monday.
Right, not on SummerSlam, not on the biggest show, but which is fine.
Well,
Just keep it off of a premium live event.
Well, no, I wouldn't even say that. Like, it's something that's going to boost ratings following the
Mhm.
pay-per-view, which a lot of times is the lowest rated shows or the ones following the pay-per-views. So depending on
Really?
the show. Yeah. I mean,
That didn't used to
not like
be.
WrestleMania. Like, it's the other ones, right? Depending on how things go. But they found that at least as I understand it, especially on not the like WrestleMania ones, but on other pay-per-views, the ones following those ones are usually some of the poorly rated shows that they've done. So I think it's a great place to put it.
Yeah, I mean, if it pops ratings, yes, go for it. Put it on the weeklies or keep it on Raw. I mean, they got 3 hours to use. They can,
Yeah.
use that spot. Other surprises, I'd say, gosh, maybe I'm trying to think of maybe something in AEW. I feel like there was a big return in AEW that we're missing.
MJF's return was the biggest one I can think of.
Yeah. Gosh.
I mean, yeah, people
I
come back
guess
from injury like Kyle O'Reilly, but
Jack Perry.
Jack Perry, scapegoat.
Yeah. That was big. He's probably the most over he's ever been. Yeah. As far as big moments, you got Sting's retirement.
Yep.
Happened this
Huge
year.
retirement or a huge moment.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest moment in AEW of the year so far.
Yeah. I think that's what this year is going to be known for so far. I mean, obviously, if Bryan Danielson retires too, that'll be big. And then, I'm thinking that, I mean, they didn't really do anything with. What's the biggest disappointment of the year? I'll say is Adam Cole's group in AEW.
I would definitely put that on the list of disappointments. And for AEW, for sure, that's its biggest disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the biggest disappointment of the year from WWE is Jey Uso.
He definitely hasn't lived up to the expectations.
I think him himself has been fine, and he's doing great. He's doing good work, and he's getting over with the fans. Like, he's never been more over with the fans. I just don't know why, but they don't want to give him anything. Like, they don't want to give him the title. They want to give him Mr. Money in the Bank, right? Which on both they could and should have. It feels it reminds me, and I can't remember of whom, but it reminds me of the scenarios we've talked about in the past of having so many top people. There's not room for another.
LA Knight would fit into that category.
Yeah, I agree.
Remember how much momentum he had, and he looked like destined to be like, oh, he's going to win a world title. And now, like, he'll probably beat Logan Paul. I think he's probably going to get that belt, but that's consolation prize. I don't think he's going to reach higher than the mid-card title.
I feel like he did run his course as well. I think he's going to end up being like the new version of Dolph Ziggler, essentially.
Well, and I think the biggest thing that hurt him was the guy that he's compared to the most came back. It's like, why have a cheap knockoff of The Rock when the real Rock was there?
Mhm.
That's kind of my thought on that. To me, the Wyatt Six is the worst stuff on television right now. But again,
There are a lot of people that disagree with you.
yeah, I think it's worse than Austin Theory. Um,
Wow.
what, you think he's that bad?
Relative? Yeah, wow. I'm telling you. One of my co-hosts on Slightly Agitated, Josh Martinez, he would not be standing for this. He would not stand at his 5'3" for this. Okay.
For what, the Wyatt Six or the Austin Theory?
Wyatt Six.
Okay.
He's all about Wyatt Six. Well, Bray Wyatt in general, but Wyatt Six. Bray Wyatt was the guy that brought him back to the ring or watching wrestling.
No, Bray Wyatt was awesome. Until it was time to wrestle. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. Wyatt could, Bray could wrestle. It's just they gave him the worst stories that didn't have payoffs. Like, should I remind everybody about the match with Randy Orton where they just put flashes of bugs at WrestleMania, on the canvas, and that was supposed to be spooky enough to, to have Randy Orton lose or like be scared of? It was horrible.
Well, we also never got to truly see a Triple H ran era with Bray Wyatt and what he could do.
I mean, Bray Wyatt came back and
he came back and didn't do a ton because he had to go back out sick.
Yeah, he did the stuff with LA Knight. But even that with Uncle Howdy, I wasn't digging it. I don't know. Bray Wyatt and probably the Wyatt Six, they're great at having moments, but I don't want to watch them on a weekly basis. I don't know. And where's this paying off? Like, it's not going to pay off in a great match, so therefore I'm not as interested. And I'm not digging the story.
We'll just have to see.
Yes. What do you think? Has any promos stood out this year for you of being fantastic?
I'm sure there is. There's a lot of really good.
I mean, obviously the Rock and Cody promos where even the night in Las Vegas for the WrestleMania press conference, where it kicked off that whole thing. I thought that was really hot, that angle that they shot there, and the promos were good. I know it wasn't a promo, but I mean, it was Paul Heyman at the Hall of Fame, at the WWE Hall of Fame. That was fantastic.
Yes.
And then, I mean, obviously a lot of the Rock's promos this year, because when he, coined the phrases of, the Cody Crybabies and Mama Rhodes and stuff, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, AEW doesn't do a lot of great promos. Like MJF usually, he's good, but it can be even great. But nothing really stands out to me. But other than that, I can't think of anything in AEW promo wise that stands out to me. Maybe, gosh, I don't know. Christian Cage obviously had great promos for this year. I mean, he's actually. Probably, if I had to say for AEW, I'd say there's MJF, and then I think second or really close or like 1B would be Christian.
I agree. And I also would have put Christian on like best year, like for him, like having one of the best years, best years of his career of all time, right? With everything from the end of last year, from what he did from the end of last year going into this year, it's fantastic. And yeah, I would say that he carried as like the best, like the number one heel. While MJF was gone, and I mean, Joe did a really good job with the heel roll, and Swerve did too. But like, there was a bit of still love for the guys, both Joe and Swerve. Like, there was still a bit of sympathy for them, where you just love to hate Christian right now.
That whole father figure, story or gimmick or whatever you want to call it, fantastic. And he can still go in the ring.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody can do that. Jericho. I think Jericho has reached his peak, or not his peak, but he's declining.
I think he needs to step away for a while. I think he's really good. I think he still could be really good, but I think he needs to take some time off.
Jericho might fall under the most disappointing of the year.
Yeah.
Too. Because he used to be great. He was on, it was just a couple of years ago where people were saying Chris Jericho might be the GOAT of all time, but how many times he's reinvented himself and he's still competing at a high level, and gosh, what a difference a couple of years makes for him. Now he's getting the X-Pac heat, the go away heat.
Right.
Sad. We were talking about promos, and how have we forgotten CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins? All of those. Like, anytime those three, any combination, they're around each other, has been amazing. They've carried that without a single match, really.
Yeah, and Drew by himself, honestly, like Drew straight promos all year without Punk there and stuff like that has been so good. And the way that Drew has been able to handle this year, where he's been primarily heelish, but he's that kind of heel where it's like, I get where you're coming from. You're just a dick.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else. So much so that, going into Clash of the Castle, he was the face of the match. And stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Like, there are people genuinely upset that CM Punk screwed him.
Yeah. And even that, like, honestly, if we're going to talk promos and stuff like that, like, some of the promos I've been seeing from Damian Priest have been surprisingly good this year for him. And even in general, not just for him, just in general. And how they've been treating him as, like, a really slow burn face turn.
Yeah. For sure. It's now that I'm thinking about it, like the Punk and Drew stuff, they're cutting some good promos, and Seth has been holding his own too. What do you think has been the best storylines of the year?
Punk and Drew.
Yes.
And then, of course, the Cody, like building up the WrestleMania with Cody and
the
Roman.
Bloodline, all of that. Yeah. The Bloodline's still the best story in wrestling, I think, because it's still going, and they just keep. It's basically the NWO booked better than the NWO was.
Yeah. Which is insane.
The NWO, it ran out of steam because they were adding so many members in it, and it just, I don't know. They lost steam.
They painted themselves in the corner.
Yeah, they did. This one seems like, gosh, with all of the twists and turns and the Civil War that's upcoming and all this, it could last without losing any steam at all. It could last another year or maybe longer, It's it's that good because you got, once Roman comes back, you got maybe Solo as a champion leading the faction. You got The Rock when he comes back, and all of that. I mean, who knows where it's gonna go? If you would have told me, I mean, this storyline's been going on for 4 years now.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have told me, I mean, the NWO, I don't think lasted that long. Maybe, I guess 6 to 7, 8, 9 to 10. I mean, it's lasted longer than the NWO did, without losing steam.
It's insane. And how many people that this has made, right? That's the other thing with the NWO. They would bring in people to try and strengthen the NWO, but they would kind of lose steam, right? So like the NWO didn't make Savage, right? Or Hogan. I would say that it did help Hall and Nash at the beginning, but
Sure. Maybe Buff Bagwell initially, or
yeah,
Scott
Buff
Steiner get
Bagwell,
reinvented.
yeah. But by the end of it, it didn't help make anybody else, right?
No.
Where everyone that's even tangentially involved with the
You
bloodline
got
has
Sami
seemingly been
Zayn was got a
Kevin
rub
Owens,
from it. Kevin Owens, Solo, Sikoa.
Zillow, Jay,
Yeah.
Jimmy to a lesser extent so
Right.
far.
Right.
But even like looking at these new ones, right? Like, how big have they made Jacob Fatu in his debut in this? Like, he's always the equalizer in every fight that they have right now is Jacob Fatu. He is a beast that's controlled by Solo. And they've put him over like crazy, more than they've done with Tama Tonga or Tongaloa. Like, it's insane how many people are like not involved, just involved, but are being made because of a 4-year going storyline.
Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I would put that as the top story in all of wrestling. Another good one though is the Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley story. I think that they've done a fantastic job with that.
That one's been surprisingly good. Like, I was worried when they started doing it and everything else that it was just going to be kind of dumb, but it's been super enjoyable. And the hope that they end up doing the custody of Dominic part 2.
I really wish they would have done that.
I know.
It was right there. It was right there, Hunter. No, but that's fantastic. And like Rhea's like over so much, and and then Liv Morgan is over because of it. She's done some fantastic work on her end. Dominic, has been fantastic. Yeah, that story, I'll tell you, Triple H has been fantastic with the booking. Like all the stories he's weaving in, like he's a better version of Vince Russo. And I say that because he gives everybody a story. Like there's all these different storylines woven in, but it's long-term booking. It's not Crash TV. And you have to pay, it's basically storylines for the intelligent fan, because it gives you a payoff. If you've been watching, it build and build and build, it pays off to something.
But at the same time, too, like somebody's jumping in, you can kind of give a quick rundown and explanation. So it's not like a whole lot of homework you have to do for it. Yeah. So right now, wrestling is so good because a dude could be watching this, right? And has been watching it for his whole life and been all about it. It's like, oh, they're calling back to this or da 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 da, right? But then he can be like, hey babe, come watch this, and then she's intrigued in it because it's something new. Especially stuff like that with like Liv and Rhea, that is straight up from like Love Island. So it right now, wrestling's for everybody.
I talked with this person that said that Rhea Ripley is life right now for them. You know, it's so she's influencing a lot of people right now.
Yeah. I mean, Rhea Ripley's fantastic, but that person might not need to be put on a list to be watched. So,
you know, I'm thinking like there's so many good stories in the WWE right now. But like in AEW, I'd hoped for the Elite and, you know, and the stuff with the Elite and Tony Khan in AEW. I'd hoped that would it was a story, but I don't know. I think they dropped to the ball on what they could have done with that. As of now,
I
uh,
agree. And
um,
they have opportunities to do like certain
mhm,
stories, and they just kind of let it fall by the wayside.
mhm,
Um, I'm intrigued in the stuff they're doing right now with MJF and Will Ospreay
mhm.
for the story, but that's really the only story right now I care about in AEW.
I mean, the Sting retirement tour was really well done, but I don't know if you really can call that a story per se. You
Yeah.
know, but that was really well done. I'm trying to think of any other stories that have happened in AEW. It's mostly just matches. You know, good
Well,
matches, great.
the biggest story that they've had all year, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
is the story between Swerve and Hangman Adam Page
Mm-hmm.
that they've been doing all year,
Yeah.
building to the big belts, dealing with Joe having it, and then those two fighting for it and everything else like that. And then they did their what's a blood and guts match, which is essentially war games with Adam Page involved in it against Swerve. Like, they are actually having a decent story with that. It's probably the best story, honestly, right now in AEW. Is those two involved?
I thought of a good one that AEW's done.
Okay.
Tony Storm and Mariah May.
Oh yeah.
They did that. They were building that so well, and then when Mariah, you know, turned on Tony Storm, uh, that was well done.
Mm-hmm. And they're building that to this one for
Mhm.
Wembley, which is great.
Yeah, I love when they do long-term storytelling. You know, that's really the one thing that's really missing from AEW, because they have the good matches, but if they just put stories around them, even if they're at this point, honestly, even if they tried to put stories and they weren't great stories, I think it would be better than nothing. Where are the days of when two wrestlers would feud because one of them bumped into the wrestler backstage and they spilled coffee on them?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it doesn't have to be a huge thing, or they're fighting over a shampoo commercial. Those are real gimmicks, kids, or those are real storylines that happened.
You know what they could do, and they could do it really well in AEW, I think,
Mm-hmm,
is have an established tag team
mm-hmm.
that they have. Maybe one that's kind of thrown together more than like the Lucha Brothers or something like that. But like maybe a tag team that's thrown together that could easily be a couple of guys who could split out the singles. Have it do the Christian Jericho making the bet on dating Trish and who was the other one? Who's the other one that was involved in that match? That four way.
Jericho, Christian, Trish. Oh, the other one that was involved in the bet.
Yeah.
Oh,
But do
I
you
don't.
remember that story?
Yeah, I remember the story. I remember the three that mattered.
Yeah. But like they could easily do a story like that in AW
Mm-hmm.
with somebody and something similar to that. And it could be great.
Absolutely, and I'm of the belief that bad stories are better than no stories.
Mhm.
They've got to try something. And that's why I'm all for, if Shane McMahon wants to come in and be given some creative duties, they just need some fresh ideas, do
One story
something.
please not do is don't have wrestler A sexually assaults female wrestler, and then they have a kid, and then somebody accidentally push the female wrestler, and they have to have the abortion because of the kid got injured or the kid thing. Yeah, let's not do that story.
Let's not. Although, when they kick the baby into the stands, that's gold. We're talking about an actual angle that happened, and it wasn't a real baby, ladies and gentlemen. It was
no.
But that was fantastic. I got a kick out of that. You see what I did there?
How you were ever a father, I'll never know.
Were a father? What happened to my son, you sicko?
He got kicked.
Oh, jeez. Not by me. Is that why his head's dented? I'm just kidding. This is going down a very dark path. So let's do this. Let's give letter grades to each promotion.
Okay. Let's start down low, and we'll move up from there. I know you don't normally watch indies, so I will kind of run down through some of them.
Okay.
We'll start with GCW, who is one of the two top indie promotions right now in my eyes. And I would probably say right now, GCW is probably, I'd say a B- right now for an indie promotion. And I'm only saying that because they still don't have a lot of name recognition when it comes to stuff. They are doing great. Like Nick Gage is doing some great work right now, and a lot of the guys in there are doing some great stuff. But they still need a little bit more. Like, it doesn't take a lot to find them, but you have to go looking for GCW.
Are you going to plug that they're coming to Utah?
That is actually the next thing I was about to mention. And on August 16th, I believe, they will be here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And some of Devotion's guys you will see there. So I'm intrigued. I will be there. I probably won't be working it, but I will be definitely backstage and helping out. So let me verify though. Make sure it's August 16th still. Pretty sure it is.
Threw your curveball there. Dead air.
It's taking me a second. I know. I'm saying sorry. It's taking me a second to find it because it's not where I thought it would be.
We'll just air you flubbing the opening of last episode right. Over and over in this place. That'll be anytime we need to censor something. We'll just insert where you were flubbing the opening. That'll be our beep.
I can't find it, but I'm pretty positive it's the August 16th. So you can get the tickets through GCW's website, and I believe through Manny's website or Manny's Facebook page as well. Manny Lemons on Facebook. But then we'll move on from there. We'll talk about MLW, who is probably the top indie promotion right now. They are also doing a lot of great work. They have a lot of great workers, including Matt Cardona, Juicy Fanu, and several great workers. People to keep an eye on. You'll see them coming up shortly to the bigger name promotions. I would probably also give them about a B. And again, it's about name recognition. You have to go find them. They don't really have anything for a deal because everything's on like YouTube and stuff like that for them. But for the year, they're definitely at a really good B, like a solid B.
They did MLW. I haven't watched any MLW, but I do know that a lot of stars, MJF came from MLW. So so there's a lot of stars that went to AEW that came from MLW. So
NXT as well. Yep. Kaden Paxley, known as B Priestley, she started in MLW. So there's a lot of great workers that are there.
Bea Priestley's in NXT?
Yeah, she's been there for a while.
Really? Love her.
She's wrestling as Tatum Paxley right now.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
So
yeah, okay. Keep going.
And then all right, now we can move on
Okay.
to TNA.
Okay, so TNA right now, I'll give them a B. Maybe even leaning towards a B plus.
I'm on a B plus myself, possibly as high as an A minus, because they are doing great stories right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have really good workers. They always have, but like they're also like they're almost back, I think, to the level they were at their peak. So I would definitely. In fact,
I
I'm going to
wouldn't
go A.
go that far because at their peak, it was, oh my god,
Yeah.
it was like the promotion to watch at the
Bound for
time.
Glory, by the way, was the name of the pay per view I was thinking of.
Oh, Bound for Glory. Yeah, that's like their
It just hit my
WrestleMania.
head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean they're not there. So like let's say that their peak was like a
2005.
straight A.
Yeah.
Like well, I'm
Oh,
letter grade.
right. Mm-hmm.
I'd say like their peak was a full A near A plus.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that they're just tipping into A minus for me right now. So that's like they're getting to that peak.
Yeah,
Like I
no,
could see them getting there.
they're on the way back to rehabilitating their image, I guess. And going back to TNA from Impact, I think that was a wise move.
Yeah.
You know.
And again, we talked about it all night working with WWE.
Yeah.
Right now, it adds a lot for them because it's giving their workers a platform they wouldn't have, and it's also giving the ability of the casual fan to be like, oh, where's this guy from or this girl from? Oh, she's TNA, he's TNA. Oh, I gotta go find that.
Yeah.
And hopefully
maybe I should give them another chance. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So yeah, so you've got that. Now before we jump on the AEW, before we do that, I'm just going to talk about both Noah and New Japan as well. Both of them are doing great. Stardom as well, all doing great. I probably go for the year so far. Noah is probably a B minus. They could be doing better. And then they also have a working relationship with WWE right now, so they're going to be hopefully doing better. And then Stardom, probably about a B. They're always a solid promotion to watch, but again, name recognition, you have to go hunt them down. New Japan, I would probably be putting. I'm gonna give them a B plus. I actually think that they went down a little bit this year for them, and it's large to do is they lost like Okada and others to moving on from them, which is sad, but it does hurt them a bit. So I would leave that there with like maybe an A minus, possibly a B, or I'm sorry, with a B plus on it because they've gone down. They would have been like an A minus for me until losing some steam. All right, now let's talk AEW.
This one's tough for me because they're obviously down from last year at this same time frame by a lot. However, I feel like they're moving up again. I do. But I'm still, because they've dropped so far below where they were, the best I can do is a C plus.
I was actually about to say a similar thing. I at the beginning of the year with MJF being injured for most of this year, I would have gave him a solid C minus. But I think they're moving in the right direction as the year's gone on to a C plus. Not just because MJF's back, but with like Will Ospreay, right? But Will Ospreay starting to come hot. Then you have like Swerve finally finding his own.
They're finally pushing Danielson, yeah.
Or Brian Danielson, yep. The Evil Boss Elite, I think, is still got some story to milk from there. I hope they just go in the right direction with it. Scapegoat.
No.
Right. I think the scapegoat gimmick
Mhm.
is working well for him.
Jack Perry.
Jack Perry.
Uh,
I think that's going to do wonders for his career and things like that. There just needs to be more stars being made. I think they're finally trending in that direction where they're making stars like Osprey,
mhm,
like Strickland, like Hangman Adam Page, even like
mhm.
finally. I just hope they continue down that trend. So that definitely they're a C plus for me as well, moving in the right direction.
Yeah. I hope that they keep doing. I hope Wembley, All In does fantastic. I hope there's some surprises, something to, that can lead into finishing the year strong. Um. Okay. So
All right, and then the
WWE.
B. No,
I don't know how you don't say A plus.
I don't.
You don't.
No, I would say A teetering on A minus.
Okay.
And my reasoning for it is fairly easy. You mentioned earlier how about Triple H is always making stories for everybody, and I
Mhm.
agree with that. And they're making a ton of stars. Um, with like stuff with Cody Rhodes and everybody else, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, everyone's kind of becoming a star. They're even getting some of these new ones on there, like Lava Curious. She's becoming a star slowly. Damian Priest is having probably his best year of all time and actually getting a good face turn and everything else. The problem is, and it's a problem you're going to have with as much talent as they have, you're having too many hot stars at one time. There's not enough room on the card at the main event part. And
Uh,
that's what I mentioned earlier with Jey Uso.
you know
Like,
what though? Every hot period has had that same issue. Look at the
oh,
Attitude Era. How
I don't
many people were
disagree.
over? Or even look at the Rock and Wrestling era with Hogan. Like Roddy Piper was hot, never won the title. Mr. Perfect. All of
It
those
is a
guys.
problem you want. I'm not saying it's not one.
Mhm.
It's definitely a great problem to have because when people get injured, like the next person can step up
Right.
and still be as hot, right?
Mhm.
But it's just that kind of problem, right? And that's why I'm leaning to the A minus a little bit because it's the wager gap, right? It's you have all this hot top talent, and then you have all this low card. I'm not saying that anyone's bad. I'm just saying it's low card. You don't really have a well established mid card, which is something the Attitude Era did have in spades. They had a great mid card. And you don't really have that. Either everyone's main event or everyone's low, and there's almost no mid card
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I think Dominic Mysterio's mid card and he's over. Logan Paul is mid card.
when he's
Same,
there.
LA Knight. Um, I mean, heck, the Wyatt Six is mid card.
Wyatt Six is going to be a main event ish, like main event
No, they're
adjacent.
not. No, they're not. You,
Chad Gable's good mid card when he's
yeah,
like doing
exactly.
something there.
And
I'm not
who's he
saying there's not
feuding?
good mid card. There's not great mid card, and that's not a ton. Like I said, you have a lot of low points right now,
Sami
right?
Zayn.
I would put him as main event. He could easily main event a show at any point
He
in
could.
time.
He could. He could.
Braun Breaker is coming in as a hot main event star that he could go at any time. Ilya Dragunov, on the other hand, even though he's really good, he's kind of a low card. I wouldn't even put him as mid card right now. Same for Carmelo Hayes because you're not
Right.
establishing strong mid cards.
When your main eventers are the mid card, I think you're doing okay.
So, but that's why I'm going like an A
Mhm.
to an A, leaning to an A minus. I mean, it's a slight lean. I'm leaning more that direction than the A plus,
Would you say
and I'm nitpicking as hell.
right? Right, because we know that like this is the best WWE's been in years.
Yeah,
Um,
if possibly ever.
right, this stretch right here, I'll put this up against the Attitude Era and all these other eras like all day long. Like,
Mhm.
fantastic. But would you say Triple H is okay? So I think it'd be easy to say, is Triple H the best booker in wrestling right now, currently?
Hands down, yes.
Right. I don't even know if there's like a close number two, or even a number two that's like that's not distant. Like, are you freaking even kidding me? Putting them in the same breath as Triple H.
I would, as a close or relatively close number two, I would put Shawn Michaels for NXT.
Okay. Okay. Um, he would be too, because I think Tony Khan is horrible at it, and it took me a
Mm,
while to, to come around to that. Because at first I was like, "Oh, no, he knows what he's doing. He's booking." When it was hot, it was like Tony Khan's doing amazing, you know. But when he lost his stars that could tell stories, you know, it was not good. But
AEW has the opposite problem. They have a really strong mid card and no stars.
I wouldn't say they have no stars. I think you've got Will Ospreay,
Well,
MJF,
I mentioned some of the ones they started building up that they're leading to that
right?
C plus, but like they need to build a lot more of those mid cards up to
Mhm.
stars, and they can. They have that talent.
Well, there's people that were stars that like their stock have dropped tremendously, like Adam Cole. Like he was like a year ago, he was main eventing Wembley at
Yeah,
All In. That was 1 year ago, and
yeah.
now nothing. I
Well,
get
he's
it. I
still
think he's
injured.
injured. Okay, I
Yeah,
get it, but still, like he's Punk was injured for half the year, and he stayed relevant. You know, I wouldn't say Adam Cole's relevant right now.
but you can have the same argument with Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair's been out for 8 months.
You could, with
So
Charlotte Flair. Um, I don't know. It's remember though when wrestling had like multiple bookers at the same time. Where you're like, oh, this is a great booker here. This is a great booker here. I mean, look in the '90s. You had Paul Heyman. You had Vince. You had um
Bischoff.
Bischoff, you had Kevin Sullivan, you had, yes, Vince Russo. You had all these guys that had their own style that could do all of that. And whether, you liked some, you hated some, but there was a strong contingent that said, oh, I would put them in charge of my company to book it. Now it's like Triple H or bust for me. Like, where's the brilliant ideas, guys? It's like, I think they need to start bringing in like some of these brilliant mind wrestlers, like a Jake the Snake Roberts or a Tully Blanchard, or I think they need to bring in some guys that have been there, done that, to craft new stories. That's what I think needs to happen.
I agree, and we've talked about that many
Yep.
times for booking on AEW and stuff like that.
I hope Shane
I
McMahon
guess.
comes in. It's even if he sucks at it, it'd be fresh. It'd be a fresh take.
All right, Psycho. Is there anything else before we wrap this one up?
Yeah. Lastly, what do you predict for the last half of this year? Any bold predictions you think could happen besides Shane McMahon showing up, in AEW?
I think Gunther holding the title for a while, the big belt.
Mm-hmm.
I think we might see Cody losing the belt as soon as Survivor Series.
He might lose it this Saturday at
Yeah,
SummerSlam to Solo. I could see it.
I could too.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
Roman
Roman Reigns returning.
Reigns returning, The Rock returning. Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson retiring.
Well, that's more a
Well, I
spoiler
mean,
than a
as
prediction.
of
Oh,
as of
you mean
Wembley.
as of Sunday or the All In pay-per-view?
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, but I could see him winning
So
the belt. That's my prediction. Anybody you can see other than Shane McMahon jumping one way or the other to either promotion by the end of the year?
One that would be interesting. This is a bold prediction. Bold. I don't think it's actually going to happen, but just would be crazy to see is Rebecca Knox debuting in AEW.
I don't see it happening
I don't either
at all.
But for those who don't know, that's Becky Lynch. That would be a very bold prediction. Okay, I've got a really interesting bold prediction for you.
Okay.
The new WWE female star, and I'm going to go as far as saying winning the WWE Women's title. Is that the one that's on SmackDown? Is that the world title? It's a women's title.
It's one of them. Yeah.
The SmackDown Women's title. We'll just go with that, even though it's not what's called.
Yeah.
Will be. Well, let me side tangent this. So that women's title champion is going to be Tiffany Stratton at some point. But the I just realized that she's going to NXT, not to SmackDown. But the NXT Women's Champion, the one that beats Roxanne Perez, will be Stephanie Vangar or Van Car, who just got picked up by WWE and who had a huge debut in Mexico on the live event. And the WWE are super hype on right now.
Yeah, I could see all that. I mean, yeah, I could definitely see that. Ricochet debuting in AEW. I think that's going to happen fairly soon, maybe as early as All In.
I would like to see him there, and I would like to see him become a star on there because I think he fits their kind of mold better.
Ricochet versus Will Ospreay.
Oh, of course. Like, I'm super excited for that match. I also would be excited to see them being tag champions.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's like I'd love to see him team too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Obviously Roman Reigns returning. I think we said that. I would say also I think AEW does get their television deal secured. I think it'll still be with TNT or Warner Brothers Discovery. It might be for a lower amount, but I could see it happening. And maybe that's why Shane's coming in to negotiate the new TV deal.
Who knows?
They might get a bump in pay if they know Shane's going to be, helping. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the bold or not so bold predictions for the rest of the year.
Well, how about this? I want to hear from you guys. What are your bold predictions for the remainder of 2024 in the wrestling world? Who's going to debut? Who's going to become new champ? What's your new bold prediction of what's going to happen? Reach out to us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at BeHero Media. Or always, you can go to BeHeroMedia.com to hit us that way. And now you can actually add comments on Spotify and hit us up that way. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all the stuff with Spotify or Apple or however you're listening to this. And try to help us out by letting other people hear our great podcasts we have here on Be Hero Media. You can also reach out to me directly at Mike Burke DCW on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can also hit me up at Twitter at Mike Burke Pro. And then you can hit up Psycho at Psycho Wrestling on the Face of Books. And speaking of wrestling, of course, we have Devotion Championship Wrestling shows coming up. As this airs the following day, Saturday, August 3rd, we will be having our Back in Session show. That show still has a few tickets left, so please reach out to us, get those tickets right now on our social medias, which I'll give you here at the end. That is August 3rd at Light Tree Studios. Following that, we will have Tussle Time August 17th, up at Kamikazes up in Ogden, Utah. And of course, I mentioned earlier, GCW will be here in Salt Lake with some of our great DCW workers involved in that on August 16th. It's going to be a busy weekend. And then August 23rd, we'll be at Bar Fights at Ace's Saloon in Salt Lake City as well. And then September 3rd, we will be right back at Lighttree Studios for our next live taping. Get information for all of those shows, as well as tickets on Facebook and Instagram at DCW. Nope. At Facebook and Instagram on Devotion Championship Wrestling, on Twitter at DCW Salt Lake City, and on TikTok at Devotion Wrestling. Also, as soon as this week, I believe, as this coming up show, when you go to the show, we will be doing a sign up for our Devotion Championship newsletter, which will give you information about all the upcoming shows, some great stuff about some of the workers and everything else added to email. So if you want to be part of that, reach out to us there. As well as you can reach out to us on our social medias, again, either on mine or on Devotions, about how to get attached to that newsletter so you can follow everything that's going on with Devotion Championship Wrestling. All right, Psycho. Is there anything else before we head off?
No.
All right, man. Well, for the rest of Be Hero Media, he has been Psycho. I have been me. And this is us tapping out. Have a good night, guys.